Cloudcast Media presents from the massive studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is the Cloudcast with Aaron Delp and Brian Gracely, bringing you the best of cloud computing from around the world.
And we're back. And actually, this is super fascinating. In talking before the show, before we hit record, it turns out our guest is local to the Cloudcast. So we have Peter Zairsev, founder and CEO at Percona. And you're from actually like right down the street practically from me, Peter. So first of all, welcome to the show and give everyone a brief introduction, please.
Thank you. Well, first I wanted to make a little correction, right? I am the founder and I was CEO for many years, but I am not a CEO anymore. Now some other people doing the hard job for me, and I have a luxury of hanging out with folks like you on a podcast like this.
No, so, I love that. Go ahead.
Yes, so I am indeed the founder at Percona, as well as you can call me like a parallel entrepreneur in this kind of like an open source infrastructure space, right? Since starting Percona, I also participated in starting or advising a number of other companies in this databases or general open source DevTools space.
Yes, and it's interesting you say that because let's kind of dig into Percona a little bit because Percona is one of those companies you've been around and the company's been around long enough. You actually get to say, hey, I gave that up, but oh, by the way, and I didn't realize this. I mean, the company is almost 20 years old at this point, which is just an amazing accomplishment. So let's kind of start there because Percona at the end of the day, it's basically a household name in our space, and part of that is excellent tech. Part of it is the longevity. So to kind of tell everyone a little bit of the origin story of Percona for historical context, please.
Yes, of course. So before Percona, I was an engineer at MySQL AB, right? And for many people don't even know those days, but that was a little nice Swedish company which owned MySQL before Oracle came into picture, right? And about 20 years ago, I decided to leave the company because I had that entrepreneur itch, right? And I wanted to do things better. I wanted to do things differently. We started the Percona, the company which was focused on the MySQL and only MySQL at that time, where we would help people to run it more successfully, right? So we started with professional services, and the core thing at our genesis was what we are really would focus on high quality, ability to solve very complicated problems, and also really look at what is the right for customers, rather than many companies where at that time, and I think even kind of currently, where you can see the professional services sort of like extension of a sales team, right? Like if you come to Oracle and ask them, hey guys, what database should I use? Okay, what the answer is going to be probably one of the databases Oracle owns, right? So we wouldn't do that. So our focus was really focused on how we can solve those customer problems, and it's been quite successful as we were able to survive and grow, right, for almost now 20 years. We have been able to grow to what about like 350 people, more than 50 million in revenue, right? And I think what is two things which are unique about Percona, I think a number of people don't realize, is we were able to bootstrap a company, right? So this was done with no venture capital, right, or any other kind of external capital, right, for all those almost 20 years. And I think that's also allowed us is to really to stick to the open source. At Percona, we don't produce proprietary software, right? We do a lot of software, but that is open source, right? And we monetize that through support, managed services, professional services, this kind of stuff.
That's fantastic. And let me kind of ask another bit of that of in addition to the company, if I just take like the category of OSS databases, I was just thinking about this. I don't know that I've been able to ask this question of anyone on the show before, because usually I'll kind of ask of, okay, how did AI impact it? And I'm sure we'll end up talking about that a little bit. But I actually get to say, because the company does go back 20 years, like you're pre-cloud, and so tell me, like maybe 20 years is a little bit too far, but how has the cloud and the hyperscalers and SaaS services in particular kind of really changed this landscape or helped the OSS database evolve as an industry?
Yes. You are totally right. Cloud has impact the industry drastically. And even if you think about Percona, our customers also changed a lot, right? In our early days, often you would have a lot of small businesses coming to us and say, hey, you know what, we are having this, like a small website, and we need a database, of course, and we need high availability. Could you please set up for us, replication, high availability, backups, kind of this type of stuff, right? And you could do professional services like that. Now, all of course, that is gone. It doesn't make sense for somebody to pay, hundreds of dollars per hour to have somebody to set it up for you anymore, right? You can just go to Amazon, right? Or, pretty much now any even kind of small cloud vendors, and you can get that highly available database for you. And I think even more, we have a lot more solutions which went to the cloud, right? Because if you look at 20 years ago, if I want to have like an e-commerce store, I would probably have to build it. Now you have a Shopify. Now you are not even kind of going to really build from scratch your own e-commerce store. You're just going to, buy some SaaS solution, right? Maybe customize a couple of plugins, kind of this kind of stuff, right? So things change a lot. And I think what was very good for Percona, what we were able to grow together with markets, right, where we serve a lot of a large enterprise at this point, which still have a complicated database environment, whether it's cloud or on-prem, right? And they would much rather do that with partners than do it alone, right? Or just rely on the so-called fully managed services the cloud provides. But that was a tough transition, right? And I know like a lot of my friends, which would be running this kind of like a very small business focused one-man consulting shops, right? Where they kind of out of business because, well, those guys just have that fully managed cloud services instead.
Sure. And so help everyone out there with a little bit about that, because, like if you go to the Percona website, right, it lists all the big ones, right? It lists MySQL, it lists MongoDB, there's Postgres listed out there. So help everyone kind of connect the dots of like, first of all, what does it mean? Because and the reason why I asked this is because like my understanding was Percona was more product than services and consulting, and so help everyone connect the dots of like, how does this all interconnect, and why does it really matter? With today's, to your point, like with the evolution of cloud and managed services and everything else.
Yes. So if you think about Percona, we do provide a lot of software out there, right? So, for example, if you look at MySQL, there is a MySQL community, and then there is a Percona server, right, which is an extended version of MySQL, which has a lot of features you would find in let's say MySQL Enterprise Edition, which is proprietary only, right, as well as some other unique Percona enable features, right? And the same applies to other database technologies we support. We also support all this. We also ship software which is enabling all the different databases, right? For example, we have Percona monitoring and management, right, which actually doesn't do a lot of management, but it does provide a lot of awesome observability for people who want to understand their databases very deeply. We also have solutions such as Percona Everest, which allows you to deploy the databases in a Kubernetes environment with kind of nice graphical user interface, which is similar to Amazon RDS and such, right? So we do have that software, right? But I think the interesting thing about Percona, and which is unique, what we monetize that software through a subscription to our services, specifically through support. If you just want to use our software, you don't need any help, that's fine, good for you, right? But what we found is what a lot of enterprises, they just do not want it to do it alone. Because you can say, hey, you know what, that's for you as maybe kind of small developer. You can say, well, I can go on a web and I can grab those, sources, compile myself and grab binaries, right, run it, and it's all good, right? But for large enterprise, which has a lot of kind of regulators watching it, that they ask the questions, okay, and who provides the assurance what that binaries were built right? And you say, well, community does. Oh, do you have a contract with community? No, you don't, right? Like open source usually comes with, use of at your own risk with no warranty, which is good enough for many, but it's not good enough for large, highly regulated enterprises. So they want to do that with partner, even if a source is available. Right, like in this case. And what I often like to explain to our guys is say, look, you know what, when you, in many cases, packages matter, right? You guys know, like in US in particular, right, you have a, tap water, free, safe to use, fountains everywhere. But many of us like to buy the bottled water anyway. That is the same stuff, differently packaged. It also comes with, maybe different kind of warranties attached to that, or expectations for a brand which provides that water, right? And this is a way what Percona monetizes open source. While a lot of other companies, they have more like a Coca-Cola stuff, right? Where you know what, that's obviously doesn't go from the drink in fountains. And good, it doesn't, right? Like, don't get me wrong.
Right. Absolutely. Let me ask you this, because I think that's a really good, because I think there's always been kind of this mindset of like, OSS is awesome and it works until it doesn't. And so it's like, okay, then what, right? And so you're helping answer the then what. But while you were talking about that, also made me think about the concept of like we're increasingly seeing increased regulations and compliance necessary around like data sovereignty or PII, and we're seeing greater scrutiny around this. And so tell me a little bit about what you've seen, kind of the regulatory or compliance aspects, and how much does that impact the organizations you're talking to on a regular basis?
Yes, I think that is a very very interesting, right? I think there have been a lot of unfortunate events happen in the world, last decade or so, right? And I think over time we also see the open source maturing and becoming more mission critical. So we do have now on one side this kind of really very good situation where open source became ubiquitous, where open source markets has become so huge, but also some of the increasing concerns, right, about their politics of all of that, right? And you have things ranging from potential companies doing what is our exposure to the sanctions, right? Or what may be our exposure to the state actors, right? And so on and so forth, right? Like so for example, well, guys, if I am hosting data in United States, right, can I be sure what what nobody, the U.S. special services would not get access to that if they need to do so, right?
Yes,
And I think that is a very interesting thing. What we see a lot more companies, and especially like which are operating globally, would say, hey, you know what? We like clouds. Clouds can give us some, convenience. But we want to be in a position also to control our data, control our environment. If you want to operate in some countries which may say, hey, you need to keep the data here in our country, right? And maybe there is, no suitable cloud vendors exist in that country, right? And so on. And for us, I think that was is a good opportunity where we see, again, especially those larger companies which operate in many countries, right? And which also have to kind of factor in risks much more seriously, right? They are really re-evaluating sort of freedoms what open source provides them with.
I like that. Let me kind of change topics on you just a little bit, and I don't feel like any conversation here recently can happen without also kind of talking about implications of AI, and with AI and databases in particular. Now, I kind of think of it as two ways. Number one, agentic actions that happen in the operations of databases. But I'm also interested in kind of, you got the rise of embeddings and vector databases and a whole other subset of open source databases now that kind of found a product market fit, if you will, right? And so, like, what is your thoughts around all of this? Is this complementary? Is it competitive? Is it both? Like, how do you think about AI and databases related to it?
Yes. Well, look, I think when we are looking at the databases as they relate to AI, there are many different angles, right? And I think the interesting thing with AI, it's kind of really impacts everything, right? And in every way possible, right? So from one standpoint, you can say, well, the databases out there exist to store and process stuff. And if you think about that, any new type of information or data structures, it creates both a new breed of databases as well as a sort of retrofitting of the old databases, right, to deal with that format, right? I mean, in my memory, where it was happened so many times already. Like, some of you remember there was a thing called XML, right? Not a very big with that, but that was very important. That's how we're supposed to kind of present all kind of information. And there were special XML databases as well as relational databases had support for XML with a special kind of XML query language, XPath, and so on and so forth, right? Then there was JSON, right? Different kind of sort of like a modern XML replacement, if you like, right? There were GIS, geographical data, which again required a different type of indexes and so on and so forth to deal with that. Then we had a time series databases. Once again, time series data, you need kind of different data structures to get a compression, to get a retrieval. We have both standard databases have a better support for that, as well as a special purpose databases built, right? And then now we're speaking about the vector search. The exactly same thing is happening, right? With the vector search, that is a new kind of data, which especially requires the new retrieval methods, right? Like indexes, and we need on one side databases like Postgres, implementing some very popular applications, and I think that is where a lot of people use that on a small and medium scale. And then if you look at the absolutely massive scale, right, that's where you have a special purpose databases which are also exist, right? So that is if you look at from AI as kind of providing shovels for a gold rush. Right? Hey, we provide the tools, you guys build applications, right? But I think in this case, a database are also impacted from AI in different ways, right? Like, for example, all that agentic coding, vibe coding, right? Hey, maybe people are not going to write the SQL queries anymore, right? Like, we get AI which can do that with some level of success. Oh, what about running database? Do we need kind of humans to operate that, or all that kind of self-healing or indexes or maintenance can be built, handled by AI? That is also like, I think where a lot of early stage work is going on. But if you look at any complicated environment running in production, which I know about, people tends to be still involved at that time, though often with advisory from AI. Right, and then obviously from development standpoint, think about that, schema design, right, and so on and so forth, right. That is also something where AI is taking more and more place.
Well, I hadn't thought about this schema design. That's super interesting. I guess I just realized I've thought about the other ones for sure, but yeah, I guess when it comes to anything consultative like that, I mean, that's another area for sure. Like that, it makes sense. Oh, that's right. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I think this is like become very interesting, right? I would say with a database, especially as you look at the longer term, right? Because I was always thinking, how is that market isn't even going to evolve, right? Because if you think about the SQL, that is a relatively verbose language which is designed to be understandable and readable by humans. If we are going to go to a future where AI is going to write the apps, do we even need SQL, or there will be some more efficient and concise language enabled for interfacing, right? Or another question I would also ask, well, you know what, if you think about a lot of databases, they're obviously very complicated pieces of software, right? They're sort of general purpose, right? They are not particularly tailored for any particular use case. But if we have an AI being very, very capable of writing an optimized code of any complexity, are we kind of going to go back to kind of very specialized databases where you can say, oh, we're building this app, we're going to get a database which is going to like a very special, which will be exactly optimized for that storage and retrieval path if your application needs. If you just can, build it like that, maybe that is going to be a path, right? So I think if you look from a database, right, if you really start to be asking kind of more questions about not something that's happening in the next 6 months, but something that happens in the next 10 years, right? We can have expectations for maybe some big changes coming.
I love that. Thank you for that, Peter. I'll ask you one final question, and actually, it's a throwback to again something we talked about before we hit record, unrelated to any of this. So when is your next ultra race? And tell everyone about the previous ultra race you just completed. You're not just about databases.
Oh yes, yes. So first, maybe kind of start with some shameless plug, right? Besides Percona, I have this little passion project. We have this group called Geeks Go Peaks, where we do this kind of what I call adventure networking, kind of get together focused on IT professionals, right? Where kind of same as I did probably myself, right? Want to get more away from their, computer screens and more kind of in the nature, kind of an experience some adventures, right? And one of the things I do, right? I run. Right, I haven't been running for too long, right? Maybe about the last 5 years, because when I was starting to push in my 40, it was no more, you just working from a computer all day and it goes away, right? I said oh, you look at Peter, you're getting some, belly growing, right? And,
Yes.
Other stuff. So yeah, I kind of started to running and do a lot of specifically obstacle course racing, right? Like Spartan, and we just spoke what I did the 50K 60 obstacles ultra, right there in South Carolina, and I do not know, frankly, where next ultra going to be, but next weekend we're going to go for Amazon reInvent. We were friend a little bit earlier, so we're going to hike down and up to Grand Canyon. Kind of that's going to be some a little fun winter exercise. No, we're probably not going to do with rim to rim, right? That requires a bunch of logistics. You need to somebody meet you on the other side, and actually
Yes.
in winter the other rim is closed. right? But you can
Okay.
go to the river and then go back. So that's kind of rim to rim, but the same rim.
Yes. That's good. No, that's fantastic. That's super interesting, and we'll put a link in the show notes for all of that as well. So Peter, thank you very much for your time. But one final question: if anyone else out there is kind of interested in Percona and what you've got going, what's the best way they could get started?
Well, of course, just go to percona.com. You can start from there, right? If you are into social media, you can also find that on pretty much any social media around there as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Peter. And everyone out there, thank you for your time as well. Thank you for listening this week on behalf of Brian and myself. If you enjoy the show, please tell a friend, or if you're able to, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, we're always welcome to feedback as well. show@thecloudcast.net. We're always looking for both feedback and guest suggestions as well. So thank you, everyone, for your time this week, and we will talk to everyone next week.
Thank you for listening to The Cloudcast. Please visit thecloudcast.net to find more shows, show notes, videos, and everything social media.